place in history to seek. Now, there are repercussions for actions. So he was actually sent to jail at that particular age. At the age of between 11 and 12, he was already imprisoned because of what he did. And as you know, the prison can do one or two things to you. It could make you better, or it could make you worse. Or it could be a combination of the two. In the case of our hero, Ojukwu, we know what that early experience with prison did to him. I'm also going to talk about the fact that he was shaped by the passion for knowledge. He was an individual who understood the fact that to be able to fight a people, intellectual fight, you need to understand these people, you need to know what they know, because by doing that, you will be able to position yourself in the manner that, you stand to defeat. And so, he made sure he had all the education that he needed. Like I alluded to earlier, he went to King's College in Lagos, and then went on, like our brother Mr. Africa told us, he went forward to Epsom College, and then from there to Lincoln College, which is a part of the Oxford University, where he majored in history, bagging a master's degree in history. And that was at the tender age of 23, and then returned back to Nigeria. At that age, he joined the civil service. Again, let me pause to remind us that this is a man who could very simply retire into the family business, very flourishing business, and as someone mentioned in the course of this evening, his father was one of the richest Africans, not just Nigerian. So he could simply retire into family business and, have a life of luxury. But no, he went into the civil service of Nigeria as what? Administrative officer. Now, with this, you begin to understand that the man had a purpose in life. He knew that it was important for him to understand the structure within which he was going to do things so that he will be able to do the things effectively. And after a little stint at the civil service, he joined the Nigerian military. The rest, like they say, is history, because at this time in our history, I believe that a good number of you here would have been born, including myself. Some of us who were not born then, or who were too little to follow the history, like Mr. Africa did, he's the living history here. Some of us have had the privilege of learning from people like Mr. Africa, or reading some of it from the books. Now, I will just quickly like to turn very, very briefly to the man, Ikemba, and Ndibo. I did mention earlier on that we are not dealing with a man who is so deeply tribalized, a man who feels that, yes, I am doing this because I hate the Hausas or the Yorubas, and I love only the Igbos. No. Don't forget, he was born in northern Nigeria. Some of his best friends, up till the moment of his death, are Northerners and also Yorubas. But you also need to cast your mind back to the fact that one of the core things that drove this man was social justice and equality. Now, with the coup that actually brought about the killings of Ndi Igbo in northern Nigeria and other parts of Nigeria, he felt that the injustice, the social injustice here, the inequality within the same country was no longer to be tolerated. And so, he did what he had to do. Now, something tells me, looking at the chronology of the man we're talking about, that if he felt that the Hausas or the Yorubas were being mistreated within what was supposed to be a federal Nigeria, he would equally have fought. But due to accident of history, he was Onyibo, and he found himself fighting for Ndibo. Now, everybody understood what he did, because we also know that in the 13 years that he spent in exile, he remained very much alive in the heart of Ndibo. I happen to have witnessed his return from exile, and I took one thing out of the ceremonies. He was so overwhelmed that the only thing I recall him always saying, you know, in the procession from Onitsha down through to Newi, was Ife Kanko, Ife Kanko, you know. So just by way of telling you that the man is so very much loved by the Igbos, and the reason is very glaring. Next slide, please. Good. Now, let's turn our attention just for a moment on Ndibo within Nigeria. Ndibo is a nation within a nation, just like several other nations that form the entity called Nigeria. Now, you will ask yourself, the things, the realities or the imperatives of the day that drove our hero, Ojukwu, to lead the declaration of the nation of Biafra, have those things gone away today in our body politics? Good. So those things are still alive. The injustices, the imbalances, and so on and so forth, they are still there. Now, the other question is, even as much as those imbalances and injustices are still there, is the call for taking up the arms and pulling away from the country called Nigeria, is it still as relevant as it was at the time that Ojukwu led the Biafran War? Even more. Well, that's a matter of opinion, because the few comments I want to make now will lead us to the legacy that Ojukwu, our hero, left behind for us. I want to challenge anyone here to rise and tell me that the legacy that our hero left for us is for us to take up arms and reawaken the fight for Biafra. I don't think so. I think that if we look back to the things that made the man, the reasons that he fought the fight that he fought for you and I, for the rest of Nigeria, you will find that he did that basically to make a statement, basically to try to right a wrong. And in the later part of his life, like we know, he went full force into politics. We know that the injustices continued with his imprisonment and the rigging of the senatorial election that he could have won, but didn't win because of rigging. The same rigging that we know is still continuing in Nigeria. Even at that, the man continued to believe in the efficacy of democratic institutions. That was why he continued to be the part and parcel of the Nigerian political structure, because he believed that rather than through the barrels of the gun, through the wardens and the trappings of democracy, we could achieve what Biafra couldn't achieve. I will leave you with that thought, and on that note, I want to say thank you for listening and have a pleasant time.
Should unite the Igbos. Should be a bond that will bring the Igbos together the more. Ojukwu is a man of peace. He has fought so much for the Igbos. And we think commemorating his death today should be a sign of Ndi Igbo coming together, fighting as one indivisible entity to achieve those goals Ojukwu set for us. Well, for me, Ojukwu is an epitome of peace, love, and a man that believes in one thing.
Chido nyabu nkuku na lunefu
ana wewe
walulu emegu nchiko meludiji alu na ivokolu nubi
ana wewe
onye desipombu nubi atakaro obugozi ekene kamjiliga
ana wewe
amalusi ebi
ana wewe
amalu noduso
ana wewe
nkudolu kogu
ana wewe
mmadụ ga-eji aka
Robinson
Chukwudumma
eji
na-anwụ n'ọgbọ ọgụ mmadụ na-atọ ụtọ ọnụ egwu nke ibụọ ọjụlụ asị bịa bụ nnụnụ ọfọziri nke ego ya eme nsogbu ara ka ọrụ ụsụ egwuro d'ife enyi na-ata na ya egbudu chi ga-azụ ọdụm kọ na nlọ ka makụ n'aka n'ụzọ na-emeghe ka ma akpọ n'okwu ọza katara iru jebe azụ rapụrụ ọkwụmụ mbi ụzọ ọkachala okwu mkpọrụ n'ụlọ za na mbaza nke ego amarịlichala okwu wake aka maka uru n'isi ego ọ chọrọ mgbada amụhibịa bịa kwuru ozi were ebunu na ya aka mmadụ godube